What is up, guys? Welcome back. MMA Cannibal here, and today I'm gonna go over my predictions for the UFC 293 Adesanya versus Sean Strickland card. I'm not gonna be doing this the way I normally do it, where I break down the entire main card, because honestly, for this card, I just don't care that much. There's, I'm sure that's not really that big of a surprise to anybody, but there's really only two fights that I legitimately care to break down here, and one that I feel like touching on just because of especially what happened at the press conference. So, without further ado, I'm gonna just jump straight into this one. The first fight that I'm gonna be covering is the featured fight of Manel Kape versus Felipe dos Santos. Manel Kape, wow, I really became a fan of this dude after that press conference. Before, it was kind of like, he had a couple good performances here and there. He's a little bit of a personality online, but you never really see it. But the way he just stood up and went after Kaikara, threw the water bottle at him, kept standing up to Izzy when Izzy stood up to him to try and defend Kai, that was like, I just saw him. He just went off and took no prisoners, And good on him too to call out the hypocrisy from that city kickboxing team. I remember, like, I don't know if anybody else remembers how like infuriating it was when Eugene Berryman started talking about like how Dricus du Plessis like probably not the number one contender anymore and is gonna have to prove himself again because he refused to fight Adesanya injured on this card. And they were like, well, we fight through injuries, but then Car France pulls out because of a concussion, proving the double standard that they like to live on. So I was really like surprised that Manel Kape like said anything about it and kind of, you know, in a way exposed him a little bit. And I feel like that's what I feel like a lot of this card has been. This is a little bit of a detour. This is like kind of a press conference reaction and a predictions in the same time. This press conference and kind of this whole buildup has felt more like CKB slander week than anything else, because it feels like a lot of their dirty laundry, especially with like their star pupil Izzy, has just been coming to surface this whole week. And it's kind of hilarious, honestly. And part of me is like all for it because I don't want the hypocrisy and the double standards that like Eugene Behrman's trying to get here to slide. If what he said had ended up turning out to make Dricus du Plessis have to fight someone else before he fights Izzy or fights for the title, period, whoever happens to hold it. That's just insane, to think that du Plessis needs to fight someone else and prove himself just because he didn't want to fight 3 months later for a title shot, his first ever. You know what I mean? Crazy. And with all the stuff that Izzy's saying, it's a lot. I'm not here to break down all of it. I just wanted to touch on it a little bit. But Manel Kape absolutely made a fan out of me that press conference. And Felipe dos Santos, what is there to really say about him? He was supposed to fight on Dana White's Contender Series. I believe it was this most recent Tuesday or next Tuesday, one of those like rare recent ones. But they decided to promote him to this to save Manel Kape's fight. Not too much to say about him. He's been fighting on the regional scenes, not looking too bad. 7-0, undefeated, coming out of that shoot to box gym with, the likes of Oliveira and whatnot. So expect to see an aggressive, scrappy style from him. Not afraid to go to the ground and scramble. Definitely going to take a lot of risks, I'm guessing, from Dos Santos here. But Kape looked fired up in that press conference, especially. And if you look at kind of his last few history of his fights, he's had like his last 4 out of his last 5 fights have been canceled, and only one of them was three of them were because of the opponents pulling out, and one of them was because he tested hot for something that ended up being proved like 100% confirmed that he was not guilty, like not culpable. He wasn't actually like taking any supplements that were like illegal or anything. It was just one of those false positives. So I just a very bad string of luck for Manel Kape lately, and it's really honestly at the end of the day, for as mediocre of an opponent as Dos Santos may be, it's kind of just good that Kape's getting another fight. especially if he can win this emphatically. Like, he'll probably be like one fight away from a title, you know? I mean, theoretically, if he had beat Kai, he could have been, you know? And so that all with all of that taken into consideration and the kind of performances Manel Kape's been putting in the UFC in his last few performances, Felipe coming in on short notice, I'm going to take Manel Kape probably by first or second round knockout, probably maybe more of a TKO possibly. Those shoot the box guys are really tough, but I just see Manel Kape coming in fired up, ready to put on some sort of a really good performance, a really good show for the fans, and really stake his claim towards that title. Moving on up, the co-main event. Now, this is probably the most interesting fight, like stylistically and competitively wise, on the whole card, in my opinion. I feel like, who is it? TUIVASA is the underdog on this one, I'm pretty sure, which doesn't surprise me a little bit, but it also kind of surprises me because it is in Australia, so I would have kind of figured a lot of Aussie money would have been coming in on that. But I mean, definitely a very winnable fight for Tai. Like, on paper, I 100% think Volkov is just better across the board in terms of striking, technique, maybe not power, maybe not durability. It's been hard to say. Volkov, his last few fights, he hasn't been getting hit too clean. Like, I'm not going to say he's the most defensively sound striker, but he doesn't get caught out of position too often. He doesn't get chinned super hard a lot. And Tai Tuivasa is a bit of a reckless swinging banging kind of guy, you know? Very heavy, very big. I mean, his that right overhand and those low calf kicks from him. I mean, it may only be two weapons, but it's the only two weapons he would need, you know? I'm not going to sit here and discredit Tai's power. I mean, a few good leg kicks, and it really changes a lot for Volkov in terms of how he's going to be able to move and get away and create that distance between Tai, because I think Volkov's really going to need space in this fight to work. You know, front kicks, jabs, backhands. Keep Tai at a distance. Do not let him charge in with the overhands, because if all he's going to have from a distance is those leg kicks, you will be pretty safe for the most part from the distance, because he's not going to be able to set him up very great and shoot a lot of feints or whatnot, you know. There's virtually no grappling threat of any sort from Tai. Not really from Volkov either, but I would definitely find it a lot more believable to think that Volkov would shoot than Tai. So I kind of see this fight. I mean, it is a heavyweight fight at the end of the day, so they're all kind of 50-50, but this one especially I see pretty 50-50 of kind of just like either Tai rushes in and like hurts Volkov and staggers him and finishes it off in the first round, like maybe 3 minutes in, you know? Or Volkov kind of circles from the outside, pitter patters him, maybe gets hurt at one point but is able to recover, hurts Tai back even, but like Tai recovers and they both just kind of keep circling around each other. I think it's going to be really hard to put Tai away. I don't know if Volkov has quite that ability, and Tai's really durable, but I don't think Volkov has quite the power and like the pressure to really get Tai out of there. So that being said, all that to put together, I'm taking Volkov by a decision in this one, which I know is kind of surprising, I think, to most people, because this fight, I feel like a lot of people are just kind of expecting a finish either way. I see it really 50-50, but if Tai wins, it's 100% a finish. If Volkov wins, it's kind of like 50-50 he finishes or gets a decision. But I lean towards a decision here. And then finally, the main event, Israel Adesanya versus Sean Strickland. They've already updated the Adesanya picture on the website with the red shorts. I had to laugh my ass off just a little bit at that with the whole Chinaman thing. I mean, the whole gimmick is pretty funny, and it's kind of fun that Izzy's leaning into it for the week. I mean, a little cringy too. I'm not going to sit here and start defending Izzy. There's been a lot of things going on this week that have kind of made me want to like step back and revalue how much of a fan I want to be of this guy. But I mean, like I was saying with Felipe Dos Santos, I mean, what is there to say about this fight that hasn't really already been said, you know? It's pretty clear on paper Izzy is so much better than Sean on paper. And even in on television. When you watch them perform, you just look at their styles, their stances, the way they throw attacks, the way they react to attacks, the level of competition they've gone against. Izzy clears Strickland on every level. And that kind of, it almost like makes me want to go for Strickland because it feels almost like a Pena Nunez situation somewhat, where it's like you just genuinely don't see a possible path for them to win. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden Sean comes through with like some redneck toughness or something and subs Izzy in the third round. I don't know. I don't predict that to be happening. I think this fight will be virtually pretty predictable. It's going to be Sean coming up with his iCarly stance, throwing out jabs, forward pressure constantly on Izzy. Izzy's going to be sitting there leg kicking, counter jabs, counter backhands, Sean's going to throw that 1-2, possibly uppercut or hook to the body. Izzy's going to probably throw a question mark kick at some point just to make Sean go, ooh, okay, you got it. Sean's going to go for a couple takedowns throughout the fight. He might even get one or two, but not anything that I think will even steal a round, probably. You know what I mean? So, I mean, like, as much as I want Sean Strickland to win this one a lot for, I think, all the obvious reasons. And if nothing else, I mean, can you just imagine a world where Sean Strickland is a UFC champion? I think the sun shines on all of us a little bit brighter. So, obviously, prayers up for Sean. We're all running with him tonight, but at the end of the day, I have to be honest, and my official pick will be Izzy by a decision. I don't want to bank on a finish, although if there was a fight that Izzy was going to finish, this would definitely be one where he's so good you'd expect him to. But arguably, that was a similar situation with like Vettori and Cannonier, where nobody seriously thought they would win. They might get a crazy upset, but nobody really thought they were close to Izzy in skill. And Izzy just kind of had boring tit-for-tat fights with them. So, unless Sean Strickland's forward pressure makes one of Izzy's counter shots just hit him like a truck the way he usually gets his knockouts, i.e. Pereira or Whitaker or Costa, then I could see a finish that way. I definitely see the math of forward pressure fighters against Izzy all suffering a similar fate, but I don't think Sean Strickland's forward pressure is aggressive enough for that even. And there's definitely not the same power threat from a few of these other guys like Costa and Pereira that comes from Strickland, you know what I mean? So that's what I'm going with. Izzy by a decision. I think it's going to be kind of a boring fight. The whole card on paper doesn't look too great, but a lot of times those ones end up being the ones that are just banger after banger after banger. So fingers crossed. Hopefully it's a good fight. I don't think I'm going to be buying the pay-per-view, so I'll have to give you guys my reactions and some matchups from just seeing highlights and stuff, but I'll definitely try and do my best and definitely watch those fights as soon as they're available on Fight Pass. And yeah, like the video, guys. Comment down below what you think I got wrong. How do you think these fights are going to go? And yeah, sounds good. Looking for this weekend. Go Sean Strickland. Peace out, guys.